Welcome back to Switch2Linux. Well, we've been running Bodhi for about a week and I'm completely sick of it, so we are going to be doing a final walkthrough. So this is going to be the first distro that I am going to be using the distro testing rubric that we created. And I'm sure it still has a little bit of refinement left to do. And so we're going to start in here, and I'm going to kind of use the rubric to walk you through some various points about Bodhi. What is good and what is bad. So, of course, to start out, we have to know about what type of system memory it's taking. So I rebooted the machine and started up htop, and it was running 301 megabytes before I turned on Simple Screen Recorder. Now, one of the biggest challenges that I find is that despite it only runs 300 megabytes, it's still not running quite as well and quite as smoothly as I would like it to. Because the fact of the matter is I don't care how much memory it's using at base as much as I care about how fast things load. When I'm booting up Cinnamon and I come in and click the icons that I want to start up the applications when I first start the computer, on Cinnamon those load up really fast. Over here, when I go to click up applications, it frequently takes quite a long time. You can see I hit that button and we're probably going to be waiting another 10 or 15 seconds before I see that icon show up. So that's actually a pretty long time. So it kind of raises this question, is it really how little memory it uses, or is it how well and efficient the system seems to run? And what I'm finding is that Bodhi just feels as heavy as every other desktop that I've used. What's the point of using a lightweight window manager when it doesn't actually behave itself? Now, for those curious, this is running on real hardware. We're running on an AMD A8 8500, 6 gigs of RAM, and I can't tell you any other system specs on this because I can't remember them off the top of my head, and this system doesn't have certain utilities installed. So first, let's go ahead and walk through some of the early things, and we want to talk about the various options that gives us. Now, one of the items that we have is what type of we're using Bing. Ew. Let's do Bodhi Linux. I never really do searches on this. What type of desktops are available? Now, of course, Bodhi is specifically an Ubuntu base with the Moksha desktop, so by default it only has one. It's not going to be one of the several other distros that have a variety of desktop options that you have. So it automatically gets a little bit lower scoring because we have two points for each desktop environment available. In this case, we only have one, so we only get the simple 2 points. And one of the big negatives that we always look for is the ability to actually run on with desktops, because in reality, I like to work off the desktop, and a lot of people like to work off the desktop. And that's what it's there for. The desktop isn't here to just have a pretty picture. The desktop is here to actually get work done. And I've explained in other places what my logical flow is and why that's important, so I'm not going to go through it here. But there is like no good way to add the desktop icons that actually works. Now, there is a way to add them inside the system panel, and I just got to remember where it is. I actually have it on my I do have it on my initial setup video exactly where it is. I think it's under modules, maybe. No. There it is, desktop icons. We can come in and we can load and turn these on. But the problem that we have is there's really no way to select them. You can't do much with them, and you just end up with this crazy giant mess. And so that's kind of annoying. So I've actually unloaded the desktop icons. I'm going to mark this as the -1 that has no easy desktop icons or ability to add them, because while you can technically add them on, they are virtually impossible to actually work with. And so we are going to dock it down. So as far as my basic desktop availability portion, it does not get any positives for a great specific mod, and it does not have the negatives for heavy resources or not coming with a desktop. and there's not really any layout options, and so really we only get 1 point. We get +2 for the single desktop environment, and we get -1 for the lame ability to work on the actual desktop. So now we have to move on to the installer, and we're not going to be able to show you this, but the installer on this is the basic installer that comes with Ubuntu. So this is actually where the thing scores the vast majority of its points, because the installer that comes with Ubuntu is an excellent installer. It does give you auto configuration, so you can choose to install alongside, you can wipe the disk, you can encrypt out of the box. It has the ability to do those auto boots. It is easy to use, and obviously it does have a good installer, so it didn't get that big negative neg 10. So overall, we got 9 points for having a great installer, and pretty much any distro that has the Ubuntu is going to get our 9 points. Now, when we move on to our application world, our applications is, this is one where we have the option of a full install and we have the option of a minimal install. And the problem is I found is even the minimal install lacked simple things like an archive manager and a few other tools that we'd really like icon manager. There's no calendar, and we have no options for icons and a few other things. However, the icons on a desktop like this, there's really not a huge need for them. But we did give this 3 points for having an option to install it minimally. And we are giving it 5 points for a good repository because it is based on Ubuntu, and Ubuntu does have a very good repository. So we do actually score 8 points on this portion. So so far we're off to a really good start, and it's like, this is moving up to be a good distro. But don't count your chickens before they hatch, because one of the issues and challenges here is that we have one of the issues and challenges here is that we did lose a lot of points in a few other places. So obviously, as far as our stability, I did have to fight with a few things to get things to be working. I actually gave it a -3 for that. Primarily, it's getting simple things to work, like adding stuff to the bar application, which really you do if you come over here and you give it, come into your settings panel and then find this. You can add your applications over here, but most distros these days have the ability to simply grab it from the menu and drag it to where you need to go. And so I had to fight with that a little bit. There are a few other little odds and ends I had to fight with, not a ton, but a little bit here and there. As far as what we called minor bugs or missing features, -3 per each missing feature. So the negatives are we don't have a way to even change the icons around. I mean, I'm sure you can do it in a config file somewhere, but application themes, we don't have, there's icons. Okay, I have to give it some points back. I literally did not find those, but apparently they are now present. Found the icons. It was not easy to find the icons, but I found the icons, so I'm going to go ahead and give the thing 3 more points back. There it is. Maybe that's a neg. The system settings is very convoluted. In fact, the system settings is very convoluted. Just the way that it works. And what I found myself oftentimes doing is having to fighting with little things like this guy here. We have to hit this little arrow that you can barely see to go back and forth. And we don't have an easy way. I guess we can maximize this one, but most of your settings don't actually have good, easy expansion options. So if I come over here, this is an example of one. We have multiple different things, and it looks like we can expand this, but we can't, and so all this ton of stuff bleeds off. So it's just not very user-friendly in the way they're putting that down. The other missing minor feature is the calendar. We do take away 5 points for each major missing feature, like an archive manager. I had to download an archive to attempt to install a driver for a device, and there's no archive manager installed. Now, maybe there is if I selected the full installation package. I don't know, but still, I would expect an archive manager even on a minimal install, especially a Linux distro where you might be downloading drivers or something, gzip, whatever. And so I had to take off 5 points for that. So we did score. I gotta readjust that, -5 for my other section. There's other items that I took off some negative points for. Number one is, oh man, moving windows around. I'm used to desktops where like we can roll those, but I'm used to, I guess that's actually first time that's been doing that. But I'm used to being able to double click and being able to move. Right now you can kind of see, I literally have to come over here, click the button over here, and then fight with it. And that's the other thing there. I'll get to that in a minute. I have to literally fight with the thing to actually be able to move and adjust your windows. So even this, I'm having a real hard time dragging things around. And so you're having to fight with Windows way more than we should. I would love to see the ability to snap things into place. I found some options that in theory should do this, but I was not actually able to find those. So too much manually moving windows around. I end up taking off a point for that. Right and left menus are unpredictable. What do I mean by this? So I have a bunch of stuff loaded up over here, and I want to come down here and interact with this and pull these up. So if you're not right in the center of the menu, and in this one here, you'll notice it'll kind of toggle, but this one here won't toggle. And then half the time you'll see, even though if I'm clicking in the middle of this, I'm getting my application menu where I'm wanting to interact with the Firefox menu. This is so beyond annoying, and what it feels like is that the distribution, you know what it's supposed to do. You're using a Windows manager because you have the easy right and left click options anywhere on the desktop, but it does feel it's not working right because when I'm trying to actually interact with certain windows, I'm not getting an expected response. I should have done more than -1, but I'm only giving -1 for that crap. The hidden menu at the top does not always pop up. It's been behaving fairly well as I'm recording, but man, the amount of fighting I'm having to do to get this thing window up, oftentimes I'm having to go up here and just like cram my mouse up here and try to get it working. It's behaving now, and it just won't show up. And then if I'm splitting my screens out, can I please adjust the windows? This is why Bodhi sucks. All right, so if I'm splitting my windows out because I'm wanting to have a couple windows open simultaneously and do this, what I found is I go to shut a window down, and now see right there, the menu's just in my way. And so it's like anytime I want the menu to show up, it didn't show up for me on a typical day. And when I don't want the menu to show up, I'm not going all the way up there. The thing's getting right in my way and preventing me from actually interacting with the dialog box I'm doing. So the unpredictability of this menu at the top, this menu which I'm having auto hide and show only when it mouses in, is very unpredictable. Again, -1. And then the camera and the audio stuff is not always working. There's just been, if you watch some of the streams I was on, the camera was flickering around a lot. There's just been some issues with that. So I gave it 4 neg points for that. And then I did end up coming back and giving it 2 positive points for the fact that it does have a very good settings panel outside of this kind of clunkiness of these arrows. You can't actually scroll the mouse wheel, but it is fairly clunky, but nevertheless, the settings panel is actually very good. It is a nice settings panel. I do like the settings, and I am saying it is easy to configure because of this. So I was able to get this set up and configured in a fairly short period of time, and for that reason, Bodhi does reserve some extra points. But overall, I gave this distro only 8. It's way more frustrating than it's worth. Even though it is super lightweight, 300 megabytes of memory right out of the box, it still seems, it feels heavier than GNOME with trying to open applications. It just takes forever for an application to open, and I don't even know why. I mean, it's not like memory is being hogged up in the system resources. It just doesn't process things efficiently like things do on Mate and on Cinnamon, has been my experience. So that's kind of my ideas on this. Let me know what you think of Bodhi. It's a Windows manager, not a desktop environment, but nevertheless, it just feels like it's so clunky that half the time you're doing something and you're expecting one behavior and you're getting another, and half the time you're expecting the behavior and it works. So it's very unpredictable, and that's kind of part of the problem. So those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts on Bodhi? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for making it to the end of this Switch to Linux video. You can have a look at another video right on over here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel or to Think Life Media, which is my own personal support page. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.